Hello and good evening, everyone. My name is Julia Macher and I'm the Director of Freedom Collaborative at Liberty Shared. It is my pleasure to welcome you all to our webinar today. This is a joint event organized by Freedom Collaborative and IGM, and it's actually the second of two sessions that we worked on together. I wanted to start by first thanking IGM Philippines for being such a pleasant partner to work with. It's been 2 years since we've known each other, and they've always been a really active supporter of Freedom Collaborative, which is great and we very much appreciate. As many of you know, Freedom Collaborative aims to bring together everyone who works against human trafficking and exploitation, regardless of their specific focus and their sector. So we're really proud of the diversity in our community of members, and we're also really proud of the range of topics and initiatives that we're able to cover. I must say that I'm really pleased that in these two webinars, we do have the opportunity to highlight a bit more of the work that religious actors are doing in this space. I personally believe it's really important to build more bridges between religious and non-religious organizations. And we have some great speakers lined up for you today who bring a lot of experience to this. And so I hope you'll enjoy the presentations and engage in an active discussion afterwards. Thank you so much. And Andy, please go ahead with the introductions.
Thank you very much, Julia. Good day, everyone from different parts of the world. And thank you for making yourselves available. I'm Andy Alegre, Senior Strategist of Church Partnerships of International Justice Mission Philippines, and I will be your moderator. Welcome again to the second webinar of this two-part series of collaboration between Freedom Collaborative and IGM Philippines, where we focus on the models of collaboration between faith-based organizations, churches, and faith communities against human trafficking. We had our last month's webinar focused on the collaboration and the issue of online sexual exploitation of children in the Philippines. And today we focus on the collaboration with faith-based organizations on the collaborative program against forms of human trafficking, labor trafficking, sex trafficking, and online sexual exploitation of children. Today we have two organizations with two speakers each, sharing their work and collaborative models against human trafficking. For all of our participants, you may use the chat button you see on your screen below for any questions or clarifications you may have for the topic and to our speakers, and we will respond to them. We will also have to choose questions later you have posted in the chat button, which we will answer at the end of the two presentations. So for our first panel of speakers is from Talitha Kum. It's an international network of consecrated life working together against human trafficking. Talitha Kum, as represented by its international coordinator, Sister Gabriela Botani, was honored as one of 2019 Trafficking in Person Heroes by the US State Department. For our first sharer is Sister Abby Avellino, a member of the Maryknoll Sisters of St. Dominic, a Catholic women congregation dedicated to overseas mission. She is a Filipino and has been serving in Japan for 12 years, doing pastoral ministry, working with migrants and refugees for intervention, following up care for abused women, networking for improvement of legal status of migrants and women, coming mostly from the Philippines, and of course, doing anti-trafficking initiatives. Sister Abby is the Talitha Kum Japan coordinator and the regional coordinator for Talitha Kum East Asian countries. For the second speaker in the Talitha Kum part is Sister Vivian Fernando. She is a member of the Congregation of the Holy Family Sisters of Bordeaux for the past 44 years, working in various ministries. She is Sri Lankan by citizenship and has been a missionary serving in the Philippines for 31 years. Sister Vivian is also their congregation's regional superior in the Philippines and the current Talitha Kum Philippines coordinator. She joined Talitha Kum in 2014 and was given the responsibility of coordinating the network's efforts in 2018. So everyone, let us welcome our first panelists, Sister Abby and Sister Vivian.
Thank you so much, Andy, for the introduction. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning to everyone. First of all, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the organizer of this webinar, especially the Freedom Collaborative and the IGM. And thank you for inviting us as representative of Talitha Kum Network. It's an honor to be speaking with you, all of you today. So I'd like to start our presentation by sharing about the Talitha Kum International Network in general. Then I will call on Sister Vivian to share about the Talitha Kum Philippines, and I will share the Talitha Kum Japan later on. So for those of you might just hearing about Talitha Kum for the first time, Talitha Kum is an international network of consecrated life against trafficking in person. Talitha Kum is a network of networks organized in many different ways, each network promoting initiatives against trafficking in person in their particular contexts and cultures. It is a project of International Union Superiors General in collaboration of Union Superior General or UISG. Talitha Kum coordinates the anti-trafficking efforts of religious women and men, facilitating networking, communication, and formation. It is inter-congregational sister-led networks organized primarily at the local level involving religious men and all people of the goodwill who will share the vision of religious people regarding anti-trafficking. It's a grassroots oriented and generally, like I said, is accountable to the conference or association of major superiors locally. Talitha Kum International Coordinator team is accountable to the UISG Secretary, Executive Secretary, currently under Sister Patricia Murray. Talitha Kum International Coordinator is Sister Gabriela Butani. Now they are based in Rome. There are 6 members of Continental Coordinating Team led by Sister Gabriela Butani. Sister Adele Abamo is the Talitha Kum Asia Coordinator who is based in the Philippines. Our mission is to end human trafficking through collaborative initiative focused around prevention, protection, social reintegration and rehabilitation at survivors, partnership and advocacy, promoting action that affect the systemic causes. Talitha Kum is an expression of the Gospel of Mark. The words translated from Aramaic means younger. I say to you, stand up. Stand up to give dignity to all survivors and victims of human trafficking. This logo, you see the hand, that symbolizes the TK key elements. Hands, help, empowering people, and our mission to end human trafficking. One of our goals is to promote networking between consecrated persons, social organizations, religious and political leaders, and national and international level. The Talitha Kum is represented in 92 countries and 6 continents, 44 national networks. See, these photos are from taken during the Talitha Kum International Conference, representing different continents all over the world. Talitha Kum Asia, we are in 19 countries. There's an updated report that's now available in our website about the the figures. There are established regional networks in Asia, 3 networks, the Southeast Asia, East Asia, and South Asia. So in general, the main activities of Talitha Kum networks are the fields of prevention, protection, and partnership. So let us hear now from Sister Vivian about the Talitha Kum Philippines network. Over to you, Sister.
Thank you for having me to share our experience of working as a team in TKP. Happy to share with you all the glimpse of our mission being a models of collaboration against human trafficking. The Philippines network called Talitha Kum Philippines, TKP, was founded in 2009 by the Association of the Major Religious Superiors of the Philippines, AMRSP. We work together in collaboration with 39 other member congregations, government and non-government organizations, and faith-based organizations against human trafficking, especially on sex trafficking and online sexual exploitation of children in the Philippines. TKP is also a founding member of the Philippines Interfaith Movement Against Human Trafficking, PMAT, a coming of the 3 Council, the Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines, CBCP, National Council of the Churches of the Philippines, NCCP, and the Philippines Council of Evangelical Churches, PCEC. TKP continued to pursue participation in activities with partners like Interagency Council Against Trafficking, IACAT, International Justice Mission, IJM, Catholic Church Network Against Human Trafficking, CCNAT, the Philippines Interfaith Movement Against Human Trafficking, PMAT, and NGOs both locally and globally. Our mission is to empower, organize, and mobilize consecrated persons in the 3 regions to respond to counter human trafficking and modern-day slavery, especially of women and children. The goal of TKP is to strengthen the network with the major religious superiors throughout the region, to prioritize the issues of trafficking in persons, to raise the people's consciousness of the need to reaffirm and maintain their values, dignity, and roles according to the spirit of the gospel. The coordinating team is comprised of 23 congregations, the women religious from different communities. At present, the coordinating team is active, enthusiastic, and generous in continuing the work to combat human trafficking and eliminate online sexual exploitation of children, OSEC. Especially, it is a great support to have Carmelite Sisters of Charity Vedrona, the Servants of the Holy Spirit, and Sisters of the Divine Savior, Missionary Sisters of Columban, and Holy Family Sisters of Bordeaux. Having Sister Adele Abamo, the coordinator of TK Asia, and Ms. Odali Garcia, the JPICC coordinator, is a great strength and a support. The core group members come together for monthly meeting to discuss and plan our activities. This year, due to the pandemic, all our planned programs and activities in other parts of the Philippines became stilled and postponed. Yet, we are trying our best to find new ways and means to continue our mission in this present situation to fight against human trafficking and OSEC. We are planning a series of online training and awareness raising activities through online. We, the TKP core group, work in hand with International Justice Mission, IJM, organizing and planning special activities during the year. Working in collaboration with Ms. Gigi Tupas and Andy Allegri as IJM church partners is an enormous boost. We, the consecrated persons and lay partners, are committed to eradicate human trafficking and modern-day slavery through 4 Ps: prevention, protection, partnership, and prayer. Prevention: awareness-raising campaigns to end human trafficking in dioceses, dormitories, schools, and organizations. Protection: sanctuary program providing direct services through referral and other psychosocial support, focusing on children to prevent becoming victims of human trafficking, especially online sexual exploitation of children, OSEC. Partnership: strengthening, collaborating with government and non-government allies of the same and other faith-based against human trafficking, both here and abroad. Organizing religious congregations in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao to serve as coordinating teams. Prayer: prayer now forms an integral part woven into all of our programs and services. Also, our main form of marking special dates, such as February 8th, International Day of Prayer and Awareness Against Human Trafficking, July 30, World Day Against Human Trafficking. Here is some of our activities fight against OSEC. Sister Judith Padasas is a member of our coordinating team and conducting awareness raising programs for children, youth, and women in schools, barangays, and squatter areas. This is also one of our activities done last year: pastoral orientation on human trafficking and trainers training program with consecrated men and women and lay partners for them to work in grassroots levels. We see and hear the increase in the reporting of domestic violence against women, online sexual exploitation of children during the pandemic. As consecrated persons, we reflect how to reach out to the persons who are vulnerable and who need our attention. We are on the move, fighting against this evil without losing our hope. We entrust all our efforts to the Lord of life. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Vivian. Yeah, that's what we are hoping, that we together we end this trafficking. So in Talitha Kum Asia, we have agreed to promote safe migration and explore ways to strengthen networking between sending countries and receiving countries. As you know, Japan is the receiving country, and part of it, also the Philippines, the sending countries. I myself work for the migrants from the Philippines. So Talitha Kum Japan is an established network group among Association of Major Superiors of Women, Religious, and Association of Major Religious Superiors in Japan, in collaboration with Catholic Commission of Japan for Migrants, Refugees, and People on the Move. It is commissioned by the CBCJ, or the Catholic Bishop Conference of Japan, to counteract trafficking in person. So we are also members of lay partners, religious men and women. We promote awareness campaign against trafficking in person, face-to-face workshops, seminars, publish newsletters twice a year, and also promote the campaign prayers on February 8 and July 30, as Sister Vivian mentioned earlier. Our mission is to network to consecrated persons, diocesan priests, lay partners in combating the human trafficking in Japan, in order to work towards justice and restoration of dignity in the lives of marginalized people. One of our goals is to strengthen the networks of among major religious spirits, both men and women, throughout Japan, in collaboration with JCARM, and to make the issue of trafficking in person a priority, particularly with migrants, refugees, and people on the move in Japan. The network group is committed to collaborative efforts in preventive, protecting, and supporting victims of human trafficking. Talitha Kum Japan is striving for a better collaboration with neighboring countries such as Philippines and Vietnam to prevent and protect victims of trafficking, especially those technical trainings, Japanese Filipino children. Many victims of human trafficking are technical intern trainees, Japanese Filipino children, and Japanese language students. These are the new forms of trafficking in person. I'd like just to emphasize what is the technical intern training program. It's to promote international contribution, that is technology transfer to developing countries, as the purpose of the program. But in fact, the program provides a cheap labor force that compensates for the labor shortage in Japan. So those people are coming from the developing countries. We encounter many problems: unstable payment of the wages, not provided skill, but instead forced to do the hard labor. Many cases accident at work and is not compensated. So verbal, physical abuse, harassment, and working long hours. These are cases that we encountered. Another forms of trafficking, case for sexual exploitation, particularly in the case of women from Thailand and the Philippines and other Southeast Asian countries. Women and Japanese Filipino children deceived and exploited concerning their occupation and wages by illegal brokers. Physical abuse, verbal abuse, many deaths of young Vietnamese trainees and Japanese language students. For the last 6 years, more than 100 Vietnamese trainees and Japanese language students died. Just alone in 2018, at least 40 Vietnamese died at accident, suicide, serious illnesses, and many more. Cases of women trainees from different countries torn between forced abortion or forced deportation. Through lobbying and advocating for the protection of human rights, the Ministry of Justice and of Health, Labor and Social Worker issued a notice on advanced handling pregnant interns, and warning was issued to all companies so that the pregnant women can safely continue technical training. Those are the cases that we encounter. Also the runaway from employer. So the Talitha Kum, Japan, we do face-to-face program before COVID-19, but now we're trying our best to do online for the awareness prevention seminars against trafficking in person. We do accompaniment, legal cases and prosecution accompaniment assistant cases of Japanese language students from the Philippines. The network has provided protection and legal assistance to the foreign students against exploitation. Some cases of Japanese students from abroad had been forced to work for long hours and had been treated unjustly. We do counseling or services in person, online for migrant workers in providing emotional and psychological accompaniment for migrant workers. We do the lobbying, provided legal support and technical assistance to victims and vulnerable people. So we also provide shelter in collaboration with NGO and PO groups and religious congregations. So many women's religious congregations open their convents as temporary shelters for the victims. Okay, so I'd like, we do have some cases, the impact of COVID-19 on human trafficking in Asia, but we won't have time to discuss about it. But I'd like to end this presentation, what Pope quoted: human trafficking is an open wound on the body of contemporary society, a scourge upon the body of Christ. This is Pope Francis' message. And we're going to show you a short clip.
Aunque tratemos de ignorarlo, la esclavitud no es algo de otro tiempo. Ante esta trágica realidad, no podemos lavarnos las manos si no queremos ser de alguna manera cómplices de estos crímenes contra la humanidad. No podemos ignorar que hoy hay esclavitud en el mundo, tanto o más quizás que antes. Recemos por la acogida generosa de las víctimas de la trata de personas y de la prostitución forzada y de la violencia.
Well, thank you so much. Our information you see on your screen. Visit our website and our email information. Thank you so much, Andy, and for Sister Vivian also. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sister Abby and Sister Vivian, for sharing Talitha Kum's model of collaboration against human trafficking, not just in your country, Japan, Philippines, but also in Asia. To our participants, may I gently remind you that if you have questions, please send them through the chat box that you can see below on your screen. At this point, we move to our second organization. Made in Hope Philippines, She Works, is a faith-based organization, nonprofit, that provides educational and work opportunities to women who have been exploited in modern-day slavery, human trafficking and prostitution, and prevention of child sex trafficking in the Philippines. To share their work, I would like to introduce to you our two speakers. First is Michelle Shiba Tolentino, who serves as co-founder and executive director of Made in Hope She Works. She also serves as catalyst for Lausanne Movement Children at Risk Issue Network. Michelle also serves as a broadcaster and producer for a weekly radio program for children and youth, which won 3 times already as Best Children's Radio Program given by the Broadcasters Association of the Philippines in 2015, 2018, and 2019. Michelle also travels internationally to speak as an advocate for women and children at risk. Our second speaker from the organization is Tina Didase, who serves as the program coordinator of Philippines She Works. She is a nutritionist, dietitian, and adult educator who has worked for 25 years in faith-based organizations serving women survivors of sex trafficking. Tina handled various tasks such as street and bar outreach and designs, writes, facilitates training modules for traffic survivors and service providers. She also partners with some Christian ministries that work in anti-trafficking programs through facilitating awareness-raising seminars on human trafficking in the Philippines and abroad. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our speakers, Michelle Tolentino and Tina Didase.
Thank you, Freedom Collaborative and International Justice Mission Philippines, for the opportunity to share today. I am Michelle Shiba Tolentino and I serve as Executive Director for Made in Hope Philippines She Works, a community coming alongside women survivors of sex trafficking and their children into urban poor communities in Quezon City, Philippines. I would like to begin by giving you a quick rundown of our presentation. Ms. Tina Didase, my colleague, will share how She Works started, her research that shaped our 4 core programs, and then I will follow by sharing about our local and international collaborations and partnerships and a story of hope of one of our trafficked women survivors.
Thank you, Michelle. Good day, everyone, and thank you, IJM and Freedom Collaborative, for inviting us this day. Our She Works journey began with friendships built and community life formed for many years among women survivors of sex trafficking. 2 decades of journeying with these wonderful women paved the way for us to form this faith-based organization. Our deep friendships enabled them to voice out and express their concerns about their future and their vision for themselves and other survivors. They saw their God-given gifts and realized that they could become channels of transformation for other victims and survivors of trafficking. A study that I made 12 years ago with former prostituted women informed and taught us, service providers, that they viewed the restoration and reintegration in the following ways. First is through befriending. They said that it takes a long while for their lost sense of trust to be restored, since they were poor and socially excluded by the community. But friendships formed through street, bar, and home visitations in the squatter communities were like love languages that they understood to feel valued, trusted, and restored to their God-given dignity. Second, a safe environment coupled with the provision of reintegration assistance, such as life and livelihood skills training, formal and non-formal education, employment, counseling, and spiritual formation, enable them to heal from their deep wounds and trauma, gave them the courage to explore their giftings and dream for their family's future. The third is the preparation for re-entering the community, including reconciliation with their families or freely choosing the communities they wanted to reintegrate to. The fourth stage is the post-reintegration stage, wherein survivors live independently and live out their vocations and calling. The vision of She Works was primarily informed by these survivors who expressed their personal and collective desire to reach out to others. So when we were having a vision statement, they said, we want every trafficked woman survivor living with her God-given dignity, meeting her practical needs sufficiently, serving and leading others in the community, and advocating against modern-day slavery of women and children in partnership with the body of Christ. This vision led us to develop our 4 core programs. The first program is She Works, which stands for Women of Reliability, Knowledge, and Skills. This is the livelihood and skills training for trafficked women survivors. This program has produced more than 5,000 advocacy bracelets, a human trafficking awareness raising tool, which have become a source of income for our survivors. Pre-COVID, our 5 women survivor leaders have begun training other women survivors from 2 communities in sewing, soap making, and accessories making. The second program is She Acts, the education of women and children's rights and the strengthening of advocacy against modern-day slavery. The survivor leaders themselves are in the front lines of educating the communities through puppetry, skits, and workshops to children in urban poor communities and public schools on child sexual abuse and OSEC, or online sexual exploitation of children. Our survivor advocates are able to educate 5,014 children and more than 4,000 community people all over the Philippines. Scholars of Hope, survivor leaders, they serve OSEC survivors. We are painting murals of the OSEC shelters of the aftercare assessment. She Cares is the third program, or the Children at Risk Empowerment and Support Program, which is a holistic child sponsorship development of 75 children ages 3 to 9. These are children of 62 women victims and survivors of sex trafficking. The survivor leaders believe that to help women victims and survivors of trafficking, somebody should be willing to support their children. We affirm a high view of children as whole human beings created with dignity, with the capacity to actively participate in their own development. And the fourth program that we have is She Leads, which is the leadership formation of trafficked women survivors, or the leadership empowerment and development of survivors. We meet regularly for scripture reflection, prayer, sharing, and leadership development sessions. In 2016, we started collaborating with International Justice Mission to mentor their survivors for leadership. Since then, we plan with the survivors in organizing an annual prayer gathering of survivors from different organizations and a yearly leadership camp of women survivors. Here, they learn about continuous self-development and mentoring other survivors. This partnership developed and is now called All Star, a group of 20 women survivors whose aim is to advocate for change in their communities as well as become productive members of society. Last year, we started having monthly meetings with our 62 traffic survivors and have started doing online education when the COVID-19 pandemic started.
One of the highlights of our year is the All-Star Camp. The All-Star program was initiated in 2015 together with the International Justice Mission in response to the need for a reintegration and restoration program, which is survivor-centered, survivor-led, and survivor-advocated. The All-Star Camp is a 3-day retreat where local women and children survivors have the opportunity to learn more about leadership formation, envision a future for themselves, and learn new skills to become a change maker through advocacy. Here is a short video clip of what usually happened during the All-Star Camp.
When we were dreaming our journey, everything that we learned in our journey with the survivors, palag kami nag-uusap, ilang taon din yun. Nag-uusap kami na dream namin to have empowered women, to have leaders, women leaders, and to create a community wherein para yung mga bagong salta or bagong biktima, merong sasalo sa kanila at sa mga pamilya. So yun yung mga pinangarap namin. Kaya nagsimula kami sa maliit muna na pagsama-sama. Tapos hinayaan namin na magkakilala yung leaders ng She Works at saka ng STAR program ng IJM doon. At hindi ko maklaim na kami yun eh. Talagang gumalaw yung Panginoon at eto na, pangalawa na leadership camp.
Our vision for the second All-Star Leadership Camp is for each one of our survivor leaders to understand that they are chosen by God to be leaders in their own different contexts and to deepen their relationship with God and also build a community of survivors where they can support one another. So what we have been doing in the past 2 days is we are strengthening their characters, learning about the story of Mary and how that can be applicable in the way that they lead and influence others. And we are praying that each one of our survivors will live out the life of Mary, of course, pointing that life towards Jesus. And also they are learning competency skills like sharing their stories, knowing how to communicate their precious stories and how God has written that so that they can also advocate for others. They're also learning financial skills management and also being an effective advocate in different issues that they are feeling passionate about. My prayer for all of you, our survivor leaders, is that you will know that you have an irreplaceable role in God's kingdom, that each one of you are called by God so that you can live out your calling and that you can show the world the glory and the beauty of Jesus Christ.
As we come alongside and empower survivors, we find it necessary to be engaged and integrated within the fabric of both local and national government, collaborating with other civil society organizations and interfaith movements working together to end human trafficking. We are also part of the Philippine Interfaith Movement Against Human Trafficking, or PMAT, where 3 faith traditions unite to fight human trafficking. In the last quarter of this year, we are actively campaigning against OSEC, or online sexual exploitation of children, through the Freedom Sunday Network campaign headed by the International Justice Mission Philippines with 8 other anti-trafficking organizations. We also take part in the call to action of the Luzon Global Movement Children at Risk Issue Network to expose, resist, and take action against all abuse of children, including violence, exploitation, slavery, trafficking, and prostitution. Sustained long-term collaboration in terms of economic empowerment of survivors is vital in our sustainability and post-reintegration stage. So we are grateful for our international partners as distribution channels of the products of our women survivor, like Made in Hope Cafe in Maui, Hawaii, and our partners in the Netherlands, the Sip Fabrik Suver. So we are thankful for their continuous partnership. And we continually build good relationships with the local government unit, or the LGU, in recognition of the service that we have been doing in the community. The barangay captain, or the head of the LGU of Fairview, Quezon City, gave She Works a training facility for our women survivors' educational and livelihood training needs. In December of 2019, the Department of Justice, through the Interagency Council Against Trafficking, or IACAT, recognized our She Works program for its active and indispensable role in the country's campaign against all form of modern-day slavery. She Works' contribution to this campaign have significantly advanced the defense and promotion of human rights and human dignity. To end our presentation, we would like to share with you a story of hope, the story of one of the courageous and inspiring women survivors of She Works. We believe that their voices are the most important voice that needs to be heard in the fight against human trafficking. So we as service providers would know how to care and come alongside them. So here's the story of one of our women, Rosie.
Lang yung buhay mo noon.
Galing ako sa Nueva Vizcaya.
Oo.
Lugar namin. So, 19 to 20 ako noon nung meron pumunta sa probinsya namin para karamihan kasi yung bumupunta sa probinsya na mga tao para mag-abroad. So, that time, sumama ako sa kanya para mag-apply dito sa Manila. So, gusto ko kasi makapunta sa ibang bansa sabi niya, salary deduction daw siya as a UAE, United Arab Emirates. So, nung papuntaan na kami, hawak niya ng passport ko. Niya binibigay sa airport kami. So, ang sabi niya na wag daw sasabihin na gano'n napuntahan namin doon. So, ako naman walang alam din yun. So, pagdating sa airport, pagpasok na doon sa aeroplano, doon sa malapit na siya na binigay yung passport ko. Pero meron akong kasama noon, mga tatlo din. 4 kami po, iba sa puntahan. Doon din po yung iba, mga Riyadh, siguro gano'n. Pagdating doon sa UAE, sa mismong agency doon, mayroong sumundo sa amin na isang lalaki, Arabo. So pagdating namin sa bahay niya, mayroong maliit na parang kulungan ng bahay, pero malinis naman siya. Pero hindi lang, parang kulungan talaga, di ba yung extension ng bahay niya. Pagpasok namin doon, may mga Pilipina doon pala. Pagkapasok ko na doon, may mga Pilipina tatlo, para isang sekretary niya na Pilipina, tapos Pilipina lahat. Pinadlock niya, laking kandado. So sabi ko, bakit pinadlock mo kami? Sabi namin. Sabi, hintayin yung mga employer niyo. Wala, okay lang, sabi niya. Doon kasi 9 months ako, nakawalong amo ako. Walang di-off, tapos wala din ako nasahuran. Hindi ako pinapasahod kasi sa amin lang, salary deduction daw. So bayaran ko daw kailangan yun. Hanggang sa tumakas na naman ako, napunta ako sa isang agency ng asawa niya, Pilipina, asawa niya. So yung asawa niya, Arabo. So ang sabi niya, tinulungan ako na sabi niya sa akin, parang akala ko pumayag na rin ako na pumunta samantala sa agency nila kasi sabi tulungan daw ako. Pumayag ako kasi gusto ko na umuwi sa probinsya namin, ay Pilipinas. Nangyari yun pala, may kapalit pala yun. Ginamit niya ako, pero nagpagamit ako dahil kasi gusto ko umuwi sa Pilipinas. Nung tapos na, uwi ka na, sabi niya, nung punta na lang van, yung van na parang mga dilata na yung mga van talaga, na hindi yung pangit na, parang yung mga malaking trap. O sabi niya, uwi ka na Pilipinas, sabi niya, sinakay ako ng van, akala ko, uwi ka na Pilipinas, sabi yung Arabo. Yung pinadlock na naman, yung van. Sabi ko, ba't kaya? Yun pala, doon sa punta ako sa kulungan. Pero ang kulungan namin, puros babae. Tapos mayroong, halimbawa ito isang ganito, mayroong isang Pilipina, tapos Arabo, Pakistan, iba doon. Andun yung mga Pilipina na pinapaso sa mukha, na ganyan, tapos palansa, andun yung sari-saring kwan. Nagkukwentuhan, iyakan na kami ganyan. Makalipas ng 2 linggo, siyempre, sabi niya, uwi ka na. Sabi sa akin, dito ang tuwa naman ako. Yun, diyatid naman ako sa airport, umuwi ako Pilipinas. Wala akong kapera-pera. Ang pera ko lang, yung baon ko na $20, nabawasan ko $10. $10 lang talaga. Tapos yung bumili ako yung lata na biskwit na pagkasalubong na panglamay, gano'n nangyari. Tapos yung Pilipinas, namuwi ako dun sa probinsya namin. Kasi sabi niya, wala kasi kadiyop-diyop doon. Parang ang pakiramdam ko, gulo ng buhay ko, ganyan-ganyan. Meron ang bahay na naman na yung mga ganda ng mga babae. Sabi niya, may trabaho sa Manila. Ipangarap ko pupunta sa Manila noon dahil lalaking bahay, yung ng trabaho, sa street, ganyan. Hanggang sa maraming babae doon na kahat-kahat. Mall kasi sa labas doon eh. Akala ko walang pakialam, akala ko mall yun, wala. Yung pala, may sumita sa akin na parang mamasang. Akala ko yung pangalan. Tapos sabi niya, dito ka. Sabi ko, bakit? Ano ba kasalanan ko? Kasi dito, ganyan. Umalis ako, punta ko sa harapan ng farmers. Nung nakatayo ako, may lumapit na lalaki. Sabi niya, Miss, may nihintay ka? Sabi, wala po. Pero that time, wala na akong pera. Sa 10 lang kutum ako. pwede mo gusto mag-snack, sabi sa akin, sa fast food. Sumama po ako. Ang ginawa ko, order ako ng maraming pagkain. Order, gutom na ako eh. Sabi niya, gusto mong sumama sa malamig na lugar. Maraming pera, saka may tsura yung lalaki, tapos parang rich. Sumama na ako doon, umpisa ng yung pagpunta ko sa street, ganyan. Naranasan ko kung paano magsabo, libo, paano. Lahat-lahat ng masama naranasan ko na dyan. Huwag ka lang, pulis, huliin ka. Gamitin ka kung wala kang babayad, gamitin ka. Hanggang sa nakatakbo ako lalaki na kila na nasasak sa akin dito. 32 tahi, sinaksak ako. Nung habang siyak yung alam nyo yung ginagamit sa kusina na yung mayroong kahoy. Diniin niya dito, yun lumalabas lang yun, naalis yung ganyan niya. Tapos habang dinidiin niya, kinasakal ako. Sabi niya, aircon kasi hindi ko, sabi ko, Lord, ito na yatang katapusan ko. Sabi ko, bigla ako uminga. Tumakbo yung lalaki, hindi na kita nakabrief ganyan. So yung that time na nagbago na ako, nakilala ko ang Panginoon. So yung pala, muwi ako. Yung pagkapalit, papang ko namatay. Doon ako umiyak, mamang ko, paypayat na siya. Hindi ko na lang gawin niya, ganyan. Sa napang ko, pinangako ko na magbabago na ako sa sementeryo. Sabi ko, pangako ko, magbabago na ako. Sabi ko, alam mo ba nangyari sa akin? Sabi ko, dati akong ganun. Sabi ko sa kanya, patawarin mo ako, sabi ko. So doon, nangyari na, mahal na mahal akong papa ko. Puro parang yun ang kapalit niya. Yun ang kapalit niya. Napunta na ako ngayon dito sa nakilala ko. Ang Seward. Napasalamat sa Panginoon dahil dito ko ngayon, isa ko ngayon sa mga nagsishare, isa ko organizing na women ngayon, isa ko yung nagsishare sa mga women sa street. Kasi gusto ko kasi yun ang trabaho ko para patuloy, para hindi lang yung mga talent, yung mga na-training ko na Seward ay sinishare ko rin sa mga kamabaihan at lalo pang madagdagan dahil tuloy kasi po yung training namin. Sa Seward kasi doon ko naranasan ng mga tao na totoong tao. Ngayon, pasalamat sa Panginoon, maraming salamat sa Panginoon siyang una lahat kasi yung mga talent ko ay ginagamit ako para i-share ko rin sa mga kababayan. Kaya gusto ko kasi na marami pang mga kababayan na tulad ko na nagbago. Gusto ko rin share sa kanila yung nawawala sa landas na maging tulad din sa mga leader na Seward. So yun po, ngayon nasa Seward na po ngayon. Tuloy pa rin tuwing Waibos meron kami nga ginagawa sa mga may counseling, iba pang mga activity tulad ng paggagawa ng bracelet, yung mga bracelet na ginagamit namin trafficking, mayroong pula, mayroong yellow sa karit po, may ibig sabihin po yun. Yun po, masaya po ako sa buhay ko ngayon. Salamat. Pero napakalaking bagay sa akin na kaya pala na kahit anong hirap, basta palapit ka sa Panginoon na ganito. Nung kasi hindi ko naunawaan mga yan eh. Hindi ko pang alam kung paano dasal, gano'n. Basta dasal ako, diretso. Lord, diyan akong ganito, ganyan. Wala ka lang binigay. Wag na. Wala na ako dati eh. Yung kasi dati nung nasa street ako, yung pera marami kasi. Ang bilis ka, ang bilis hanapin eh. 1 click lang libo yun. So, baling wala. Hindi nagpaguran eh. Nagpaguran mo pero masama yun. Yung sa ngayon, nagpaguran mo, kat piso, ang sarap gastusin ko galing sa pawis mo. Saka lalo na may kasamang espiritu sa Panginoon. Napakasarap. Gusto ko lang sa Seward kasi mababait kayo, mababait mga tao. Hindi yung mga ibang tao na hindi makalibel yan. Parang walang-wala lang sa inyo na ganun kami, na yung karang kapatid talaga, pamilya talaga, family talaga. Kapuso nga, pamilya nga.
Well, that's our presentation this evening. Thank you so much for staying. And if you have questions, please put your questions here at the chat box. And we would love to have this conversation with you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Michelle and Tina, for sharing your work at Made in Hope, Philippines. She works highlighting your journey with women survivors in terms of leadership development and economic empowerment. And of course, the collaboration you are doing with various faith-based and civil society organizations. So we have just listened to the presentation of Talitha Kum Asia and Made in Hope. We now come at this point for the question and answer portion from our participants. There was one question that posted in the Q&A box and has been answered already. But to keep the ball rolling, one question that I personally would ask our speakers is to share the current situation in your countries or areas of operation, especially this time of pandemic. So how has this affected your operation, or what are the challenges faced by your organizations, especially in your work and ministry, given the pandemic? So perhaps we can give 5 minutes each for each organization to answer that question.
Maybe Andy, I want to begin by sharing the statistics that that we are facing as a country in terms of the problem with the online sexual exploitation of children, since She Works here in the Philippines is trying to do a lot of awareness in schools and communities. So the Department of Justice reported last May 2025 that OSEC cases surged by 264% during the pandemic. The Department of Justice Office of Cybercrime said that the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children recorded a total of 279,166 cases from its Cyberline Trip Report hotline from March 1 to May 24. So I want to begin by just using that backdrop with the challenges that we have as I think as a community trying to fight against OSEC, or the online sexual exploitation of children, and human trafficking. And so I think as a community, as an organization, since the lockdown, it's been hard for us to meet with our children and our women because we are a community-based program. And so this is a challenge of educating our children, because now most of the education that's happening is a blended learning education where children are more exposed to gadgets or cell phones. And so I think the prevention side of that is challenging in a way, but we are grateful that we still have the opportunity to connect with our community by calling them or communicating through Facebook Messenger, so that we can connect with the moms, the survivors, and their children. But I want to ask Ate Tina to share more of some of our challenges as a community walking alongside the survivors and their children.
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. Maybe it's because we have a lot of lockdowns. So we would meet with our core leaders weekly. So that has really been affected. But we thought of some innovations like, we would meet 4 times a week still, but online. However, because the communication here, online communication is not so clear, so then it becomes a challenge also. But somehow for 7 months, at least we were able to do that weekly. Well, of course, the biggest challenge is the economic side of it. So most of our women lost their livelihood, and so most of them really just stayed at home, and so their children go hungry, and so that's where we wanted to come in, and so we rallied people to help us in giving them grocery packs monthly. So we're grateful for, especially to the one child who helps us with gift pack distribution every month, so at least our survivors can have something. So that's really a challenge. And of course, livelihood. They are now trying everything, like being a laundry woman, selling a lot of things, even outside their doorstep. So yeah, but really, financially, it's really a big challenge.
Thank you,
Yes.
Michelle and Tina. Perhaps we can now hear from our representatives from Talitha Kum to share some challenges. Sister Vivian, you may want to go
Yes,
first.
I do agree what Michelle provided the statistics. We were aware about that. So as I mentioned earlier, our core group members were so enthusiastic and committed. So we were trying our best. How can we reach out to these students or these children and the women? Face to face, somehow we had a meeting as a core group September 26th. Then we put all our efforts and we planned to reach out to 3 barangays. But still we could not have this program, because though they said yes, but still they could not plan because of various reasons. So as a core group, we are really sad because we were so used to, before the pandemic, we had face-to-face so many programs, awareness sessions we were giving. So now we are aware that really we need to reach out. We need to give this awareness to these children. We know what is happening, but it is a big challenge for us. How can we reach out to these vulnerable, these women? Of course, now we are doing this online, but to directly, how to reach out to those who are affected, those who are vulnerable. But anyway, still we are planning as a core group, and we are trying our best. And still we have one more invitation this coming month of November. So we are trying our best, and we are facing all our challenges courageously.
Thank you, Sister Vivian. I just to add, it's true. It's because of the limitation of the movements. It's very difficult. It's a challenge for us. But most of the networks, generally, we help distributing food to those in need during this pandemic. That's the instinct help. We do online counseling and consultation because, as you know, this pandemic, many are depressed, many are really suffering from this depression and all kind of mental disturbance. So we also assist migrants to return to their home country because abruptly they lost their jobs. They terminated their contract. So that's what we do to process their visa and stuff like that. In Indonesia, they help to promote sustainability programs in collaboration with other NGOs like farming, training, and prevention to adapt the situation, especially in empowering migrant workers. So like Sister Vivian, mostly we're doing online trainings, programs, stuff like that, and meetings, everything, has been postponed and canceled. But we're trying to do our best to face these challenges during this time of pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your responses on the questions of challenges at this time of pandemic. We seem to have more questions coming in, so I'll just read it out aloud, and so that our speakers can answer it live also. So some of the questions were answered already, and I hope you can see that from your end. So I would like to read the question, what has been your experiences working with government agencies from security, apprehension, and social services? Perhaps She Works can start answering this question.
Yeah, our experience with government agencies, is that during COVID or?
Yeah, the participant did not specify actually. I
Oh,
think
yeah.
based from your
Yeah.
experience.
Well, pre-COVID, we have a very good experience with working with government in terms of the Interagency Council against against trafficking, the IACAT. So since 2016, we were invited by the executive director and the IACAT staff. Yeah, you know, we would bring the women to their convention, to their fora. Sometimes we get involved with planning on a national scale. Sometimes we would be asked to present some of our the things that we do, or either one of our survivors will give a testimony. Another thing is during their forum or fora, they would invite us to sell our products. So that really helps us a lot. And with regards to the social services, we try as much as possible to work with some of the government's programs, because most of the survivors cannot really avail it or they don't know about it. So we include that in our training, how to avail of social services, and link them up, network them with other government agencies or non-government agencies.
Ate Tina, can I add?
Sure.
Yes. With their collaboration with the local government, I think it's important that we engage with them, and we as a faith-based organization or CSO needs to be, offering them what we can offer them. So the beginnings of our collaboration with Barangay Fairview is that we approached them and told them that we have a preventive education tool that we can use in educating the children in the slum. So we started with a good touch, bad touch puppetry. And then from then on, we're able to to engage with them and connect with them on a deeper level. And so that's the reason why, as they recognized our participation in the community, they gave us this training facility, at the compound of the barangay hall. And so with that, we're able to educate more through the online sexual exploitation of children puppetry preventive program in the communities, not just in Fairview, but in the schools around, in other communities around this area. And so I think the collaboration will be good if we are the ones who will offer them the services that we have as an organization, because I don't think they would know if we didn't approach them. So we need to be visible on that level so that they can ask for help and what we can do to them.
Thank you, Michelle and Tina, for answering those questions. I would like to open the discussion to Talitha Kum, if you want to add some more information, because in your presentation earlier, you were able to show photos also working with ministries, government agencies. Do you want to add an answer to that question, working with government agencies?
Well, yeah, actually, in Japan, I could speak out from my experience. Yeah, in collaboration is very, and networking is it's very important. In our case, we usually collaborate with the National Police Association here in Japan, and also the Japan networking against trafficking in person. And we do provide some pro bono lawyers for the legal experts and the labor union. So that's where our experience in the case of legal prosecution and legal assistance. But it's very, very difficult. It's challenging. It's because, as you know, human trafficking is a hidden crime. So it's very hard. It's challenging. But we do have collaboration and networking with other government agencies. Thank you. I don't know about
you,
in the
Sister.
Philippines.
Thank you, Sister Abby. Sister Vivian, you want to add?
Talitha Kum Philippines also, we work partner with IACAT agencies. Whenever they have organized some seminars or training, have invited us. So we have taken part. And as well as when we organize some programs as speakers, we also ask their support. In that way, we were working as partners.
Thank you very much for those valuable sharing of information in terms of working with our government. So for the interest of our time, I'll just choose one last question. It was posted earlier also. And perhaps any organization, Talitha Kum or She Works, Made in Hope can answer this question. Based on the increasing data of OSEC or online sexual exploitation of children, how do you assess the effectivity of your work? Aside from poverty and inequality as the push factor for human trafficking, what do you think the other reasons why this syndicated or organized crime continues and increasing? Any response from our panel of speakers from She Works and Talitha Kum?
Yeah, maybe for the assessing the effectivity of our work. For our small community, what we do is the preventive side. So we do puppetry presentation to children and the communities. So we educate as many children as possible, and we design the OSEC puppetry presentation as interactive as possible, so that at least during the time that we do the puppetry, we know that the children understand about it, because the OSEC presentation is until like the we teach the children which numbers to call, like the 1343 hotline number to call, but as far as assessment or measurement of activity is concerned, we don't really have a quantitative measure. But we do go back to some of the communities and we ask them what's the impact of what we do. And so we hear from mothers of the children whom we have educated that the children are telling them about OSEC. So yeah, in that, to that extent, I think we are able to find out. Yeah, but yeah, I think we should also be able to educate and really be more intentional in measuring the effectivity. I agree with that, which Sir Idil posted.
Any additional answers from other speakers? I think there was also a question about aside from poverty and inequality as the push factor for human trafficking, what are the other reasons from your experience from the organizations you are serving with that this issue or crime is continuously happening?
For the OSEC, really we were doing in the schools awareness sessions and helping the students to protect themselves. This was one of our major activity last few years. But at the moment, it was not available, that we need to plan in a way how this could be, how to help these students protect themselves.
Thank you, Sister Vivian. Sister Abby, you might want to add something.
Yeah, just additional. This is true in South Korea, because online sexual trafficking is also rampant in South Korea. But they do prevention seminar online, and they help also in legal assistance. So that's all I can say at this point at the cases of the online sex trafficking. But assessment is very hard to really pinpoint. Even measures, I think it's challenging. Thank you.
So thank you for your responses to the questions posted on our Q&A box. Perhaps we can end this session. We would like to thank our speakers for the webinar, especially our participants also for making themselves available and for joining us online. Julia, you might want to say some
Yes.
words before we end our webinar.
Thank you so much. I already wrote in the chat to all of you as well. Thank you everyone, to our panelists for your presentations and for sharing your work with us. And then also to all our participants for staying on, even though we extended the time a little bit. But we're very grateful to get some questions. And I think that's also has enhanced the conversation today. Thank you so much, Andy, for moderating. You did a fantastic job.
Thank you, Julia. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Have a good day, have a good night, and God bless everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
This one didn't come back.